This European duo just had the greatest season in the history of competitive Fortnite, and for some reason, nobody knows. You might be saying there is no way somebody could have a better season than Peterbot and Pollo, who won every Cash Cup followed by the best Grand Finals performance of all time, but you would be wrong. This is how Vico and Flickzy completed the perfect season of Fortnite. If you don't pay attention to the professional Fortnite scene, you're probably wondering who Vico and Flickzy are. Well, Vico is an Austrian player with $250,000 earned who is known for being one of the best fighters in the game. A lot of people call him the EU Peterbot, which could not be more fitting for what he just accomplished. Flickzy is a German player with $175,000 earned who is also known for being extremely good at fighting. And having two insane fighters on the same team is a massive advantage. Since neither player is an IGL, most people doubted their ability to perform well, but they could not be more wrong. So how did this duo come together? Last year, Vico and Flickzy both qualified for the FNCS Global Championships in Copenhagen. Vico finished a respectable 10th place with Pink, and Flickzy finished in 12th just below them with his duo Gripey. After this, Pink and Vico stuck together, and in Chapter 5 Season 1's FNCS, they placed 5th, which was Vico's best placement ever. The following season, they won finals of both FNCS qualifiers and were the favorite to win going into Grand Finals. Unfortunately, they had major issues with Storm Surge and split up as a duo after a disappointing 32nd place finish. On the other hand, Flickzy and his duo split up after Copenhagen, and he teamed up with 3-time FNCS winner Janice. Just like Pink and Vico, they were extremely good in the weekly qualifiers, but were unable to replicate the same success in Grands, placing 16th and 20th in the 2 seasons they played together. Now, with 1 season left to qualify for this year's Global Championships in Fort Worth, Flickzy and Vico decided to join forces, but nobody could have predicted what they were about to do. For a duo like this, you'd expect them to be good from the start, but it was not like that. The first 2 tournaments they played, they didn't even finish in the top 500, and for most duos, this would be the end. But luckily, both of them knew they had potential, so they stuck together and just fixed the mistakes. This was the right decision because the next duo Cash Cup, they qualified for finals with ease and placed in 5th. Although they were not in peak form yet, they were improving extremely fast. And to help with this, they hired Raz as their coach. Raz also coaches Peter and Pollo on NA, and he literally called this duo Project EU Peterbot and Pollo. Now, with FNCS starting, it was time to see just how good they really were. In the first week of qualifiers, they won quarterfinals by 40 points and dropped a ridiculous 191 kills in 10 games. If you don't think that's impressive, the second most kills by any other team in that round was 130, which is 61 less than Vico and Flickzy. They qualified for finals, placing 20th in round 3, but due to their lack of experience in set lobbies together, they finished 19th. Before week 2 of FNCS qualifiers, there was another duo Cash Cup, and once again, they had the most kills out of any team with 123. This would continue to be a pretty common trend. It was obvious that they were by far the scariest duo to fight in the region, and this would be a huge reason for their success. In finals of this Cash Cup, they placed 3rd and were starting to look really good in set lobbies. Since they landed at Reckless Railways, they would play for the forecast tower that spawned to the southeast every game. Nobody even tried to contest them for it because you were probably not going to win the fight, and if you did, you would be absolute shambles. This meant that every time the forecast tower spawned, they got it for free and could see every zone. In week 2 of FNCS, they won quarterfinals once again and shockingly had more kills than every other team with 186. This means they were basically averaging a 20 bomb every game. Although they didn't make finals this week, their placements were good enough to qualify for the upper bracket. Right now, you're probably wondering how could this team possibly have a better season than Peterbot and Pollo with this start? Well, after this performance, they really locked in. 5 days later was the next duo Cash Cup, and this is where their run begins. Even though the second place team, Swizzy and Vaniac, won 3 out of 6 games, Vico and Flickzy won the tournament by 100 points. This match history is insane, and the main reason they won by so much is because of how many kills they had. Even with a 4-point last game, it still wasn't even close. They finally figured everything out, and they would keep getting better during the 3-week break where no tournaments were hosted. They took this time to grind scrims and perfect their game plan, and it was time well spent. The next duo Cash Cup, they were by far the favorites to win, and they went on to do just that. Other than Chap and Teeny, who is another duo I'll be talking about today, they completely dominated once again, and by now, everybody realized just how good they were. It was time for the upper bracket of FNCS. In the first 2 rounds, the only way to qualify for Grand Finals is by winning one of the games. Vico and Flickzy prefer playing low to mid ground layers so they can get more kills rather than playing height, so although they don't win games that often, they make up for it with kill points. In upper bracket round 1, they didn't manage to win a game but finished first overall in consistency points. I honestly think this is more impressive than just having everything go your way and winning a game, but that's a different debate. In upper bracket round 2, they still didn't win a game, but once again finished first in consistency. At this point, they've been in lobbies with basically every team that would be competing in grand finals and absolutely dominating. Once again, Chap and Teeny were the only team that was even close. Next was round 3 of upper bracket, and here they only needed a top 25 to punch their ticket to finals. They had yet another impressive performance, ending in 2nd place after the 3 games, and if it was a 5-game tournament, it's more than likely they would have won. The next tournament was another performance evaluation cup, and although it might not sound like it, these are really competitive. In opens, they dropped 109 kills in 5 games, and obviously this was the most out of anyone. And in finals, to nobody's surprise, they won yet another tournament. Right after this was another duo cash cup, and you will never guess what happened. They won opens with 162 kills, which is just insane. You might be thinking that they're just running through bot lobbies, but in cash cup opens, these are high elo games, and they are just violating the best duos in the game like it's nothing. In finals, they had no plans of letting anybody come close, and got another tournament win by over 100 points. The one reason I'd say this is slightly more impressive than what Peter and Pollo did is because they didn't have an overpowered medallion or a medallion at all. Not trying to take away from the insane season they had, but the Grimgate medallion was obviously a huge factor in why that duo was able to be so dominant. The fact that Vico and Flickzy were able to pull this off while being on an even playing field as everyone else is extremely impressive. Winning all of these tournaments was nice, but it was finally time for what really mattered: FNCS Grand Finals. They were already expecting to win, but there was a change that would make this even easier. Less than 24 hours before finals started, Fortnite tweeted saying the slurp cacti would no longer respawn after being broken. On the surface, this doesn't seem like that big of a change, but it was absolutely massive. Every team that landed at the south side of the map would build surge bases on a slurp cactus and basically trade damage with each other. Because of this, they wouldn't have to use any heals because the cactus infinitely respawned. This also meant that it was way harder for teams that didn't land at this part of the map to stay above the storm surge threshold. But since Vico and Flickzy didn't use the slurp cactus as a part of their strategy, this was a great change for them. From the beginning, they were not messing around. After a decent game 1, we were about to see the usual from this duo.
Schieß einfach Waffe, die haben keine Mets, schieß. Take das, alles. Let's go!
An 11-kill win off of a crazy 1v2 from Vico, and they were in first by 50 points with no plans of slowing down. By the end of day 1, they were in first place, but their lead wasn't too big. It's always nice to be ahead, but with a 1.5x point multiplier on day 2, anything can happen. We've seen teams go from dead last day 1 to top 3 overall, so this was by no means a guaranteed win for them. The first 3 games of day 2, they placed 12th, 7th, and 18th, which were okay games, but they had so many eliminations that it made up for the lack of placement points. Their lead would keep growing each game, and they were really about to open up the gap.
Die fighten, geh einfach hoch, Vico. Er hat tot.
Ich komm runter. Ja, wollen wir zu. 2v2 meine ich. Ich komm mit den Halber. Seite. 100? Wir haben Zipline, nice. Hoch. Let's go!
After this win, their lead expanded to 108 points, and the only team within striking distance was of course Teeny and Chap. This is a duo you can never count out because they can just pop off at any moment. After game 11, Vico and Flickzy had a 90-point lead, and with 1 game left, you would think there is no possible way they could lose. But you might be forgetting who the team behind them is. Vico went down early on, but luckily Flickzy was able to clutch up a lot as a solo and finish in 7th place. At this point, it looked like they were guaranteed to win until we saw who was on height.
Those placement points mean too much because there's even 2 more placements that he's get, but he finally gets taken down. This is going to be a photo finish. Taste.
8:57 is the cutoff, Jacob. 8:57 is what Chap and Teeny need to pass. Sky and Scroll doing what they can to put themselves into the global championship.
They need every one of these eliminations. They don't have enough. They need the points on top of what they have now. They did a good job of staying alive, but so did Flickzy to gain all those points. Chap and Teeny not slowing down. They're pressuring all around. They saw Sky, but they're not going to go down for that one just yet. Everybody left in this game is solos, but Chap and Teeny. But there's not enough points left on the map unless they go berserk. But Chap goes down. Teeny gets the elimination. 1v2 situation, or it's actually going to be a 1v1. Can he win this game? That's 6 points. That's 18 for the placement on top of what he has. He's dancing around, but he's getting slowed down by focus. Until then, the final elimination it is. is. 7 on top of the win, but it isn't going to be enough.
Teeny and Chap pulled off a last game win, but who finished with more points? Teeny and Chap might have just pulled off the greatest last game clutch in Fortnite history.
Chap and Teeny giving their everything to get 7 eliminations and the victory royale. But was it enough to secure the Axe of Champions? Or did Flickzy get the clutch of a lifetime? And Vico is going to be so happy that he chose him as his duo partner, because after a heroic performance by Flickzy, they are your official FNCS Major 3 champions. It's Vico and Flickzy!
But of course, Vico and Flickzy would win by just 2 eliminations. In this performance, Vico also dropped the most amount of kills by any player in an EU Grand Finals. With a dominant FNCS win, 3 straight Duo Cash Cup wins, and a performance eval win on the hardest region in the game, this has to be the best season of all time. I think they're about the same because Vico and Flickzy did it without an item that gives them a crazy advantage, although the sheer domination Peter and Pollo had was just insane. Let me know who you think had a better season in the comments, and if you enjoy this content, subscribe.